This is the Aftermarket Radio Network.
Welcome to another episode of Business by the Numbers. I'm your host, Hud Emrys, CPA with Parmelis & Associates. Your advisors think that they had a great week just to hear that they made half the profit of what they think they did, right? That feedback is never something that they want, but it's probably a situation that you've been in before. Were the sales wrong? I doubt it. Was the parts profit wrong? Maybe, but probably not the reason. Now, was your labor profit wildly overstated? For 90% of you, the answer to that question is probably yes to some varying scale, unless you've done the exercise that we're going to talk about this week. But fixing your tech costs so that your shop management system is showing your true cost and not a fairy tale number is exactly what we're going to talk about this week. Before we get into that, I just want to stop and say thank you to you and the rest of the dedicated listeners. Remember, if you want to hear a question answered on here, shoot me an email at podcast@parmelis.com. Want to talk to us about services that Parmelis can offer for you and your repair shop? Shoot us a text at 301-307-5413. And lastly, we cannot forget our dedicated sponsors, NapaTrax and Promotive, for being such loyal supporters of the show. Did you know that NapaTrax is on-site training plus 6 days a week support? It all starts when a local representative meets with you to learn about your business and how you run it. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice. Let us prove to you that Trax is the single best shop management system in the business. Visit them online at napatrax.com. That's napatracs.com. Promotive has over 40 years of recruiting and automotive experience. If you're in need of a qualified technician and service advisors and want to offload the heavy lifting, visit them online at gopromotive.com. So before we get into fixing this problem, I need to probably do a little bit of education on why this problem arises. Like I said, 90% of you and 100% of you that don't know what this is have your technician cost labeled incorrectly in your shop management system. No, this is not a sales pitch to get you to switch over to our sponsor, NapaTrax. This is not to tell you that Shopware is junk or Protractor cannot do this. This is across the entire industry. Every one of these shop management software calculates technician cost kind of the same way, while all of them have a varying level of kind of intricacy to it and adjustments that you can make. Here is what goes on, and here is why this is an issue. So when you go into your shop management software, you can set up your technician cost, and it's going to maybe ask you how they're paid. Some of them ask you how they're paid, right? Is it salary, hourly, commission, flat rate? And you can set up the entire, pay plan on there. And some of you have done that and are like, man, that is really cool. If you put salary, hourly, or commission, it's not doing it correctly. If you put flat rate and you are truly a flat rate shop with no guarantees, it's probably going to be pretty close, still not 100% accurate. What ends up happening on this is no matter how you fill this out in any shop management software, it essentially treats your technician as flat rate employees, right? For some of you, you pay your technicians flat rate. And this is probably going to be pretty close. For just about everyone out there, there's probably some difference between the hours or the rate that you pay your technicians and the straight up rate on what your shop management software is showing. And this is where things go wrong. You want an extreme example, right? Let's say that you have a 3 technician shop. 2 of your technicians are flat rate and you got that kid that's on hourly. That kid that is on hourly is only going to cost you whatever he flags that week, right? So let's say that we pay him $10 an hour, right? Or $20 an hour. He's going to cost you about $800 a week, right? 40 hours times $20 an hour. Now, let's say last week he was just kind of shadowing the guys. He wasn't really turning any wrenches. He was, cleaning up the shop and seeing what was going on. Maybe we threw an oil change at him, right? So he got a 1 hour. So like you were supposed to, you set him up as an hourly employee and he makes $20 an hour. Your payroll for him is going to be $800, probably $900 by the time you factor in taxes, benefits, and the like. Your shop management software, whether it's Trax, whether it's Protractor, whether it's TechMetric, is going to show that technician costs you $20. That, in a nutshell, is the entire reason of why we're having this. These shop management softwares only apply an hour if you sell an hour. You don't sell anything, they don't think it costs you anything. So, like I said, is my shop management software not up to the task and that's why I'm having this issue? Well, possibly, but this issue is not one of those reasons. This is across just about all shop management software. Is my pay plan too complicated? Again, it could be too complicated, but that is not the root cause of this issue. Really, what I want to be very clear about this, and this is not just to appease Napa and NapaTrax, right? This is not something to be alarmed, right? This is not an oversight in the shop software to a large extent. You guys pay all of your technicians so differently, it would be virtually impossible to make a module that's going to work for all of you. I'm going to go with, out on a limb and say it would be impossible to have a module that works for all of you guys. The thing about it is right now, the current model does work. It just needs a little bit of tweaking to it. If you want to spend 10 minutes on this, you can be in the 10%, not the 90% that doesn't have this correctly, and have this pretty close. This is not a massive undertaking. And if you want this to be dead on, you can do that as well. But that's going to be a little bit more of a project. So now that we know what it is, and we hopefully understand why this matters, right? Think about the effects of having most of your shop having an underinflated sense of how much the payroll really cost. Do you think that that would be a helpful conversation to have with your managers, with your advisors, to a large extent, probably even your technicians? So how do I fix this is what we're going to talk about here. And really how you fix this depends on a number of factors. The first one we're going to talk about is how much yours is off, right? Because what we're going to talk about here to wrap this up is kind of 3 different ways to approach this, 3 different methodologies to go and look at it. And again, depending on how much yours is off is probably going to predicate how much you work on this, right? So if you're looking at this and you don't really have that much of a difference on there, you might go super easy, right? Hey, I'm only 10% off. Maybe I'll just go the easiest route, and that's going to get me pretty close. Now, to the other end of the extreme, let's say you are a complete salary, hourly only shop. Your production swings wildly, which we'll learn a little bit later on why that's important. Your technicians kind of swap around and you have kind of a revolving door on this. You're going to probably have a lot of volatility and you might need to spend some more time on this to actually get accurate results. Again, how much does your productivity swing is probably the most important thing on here. Right? Because if your productivity, whether it's good or bad, remains pretty consistent over the course of weeks, then you probably don't have a lot of volatility to your differences here. It should be pretty consistent. However, if you're, let's say a heavy duty shop or maybe a restoration shop where you see that productivity swing wildly from week to week on it, again, you're going to have more of an issue than some other shops. NapaTrax was built from the ground up to make your business more profitable and efficient. They provide an extensive set of tools to increase and track profitability in real time. NapaTrax offers the industry's best post-sale support hands down. They train your people on site. Yes, on site. They also offer remote refresher training 10 times a week, and customer support is open 6 days a week. Give them a call, visit them, or join our Facebook community today to learn more. They'll prove to you that Trax is the single best shop management system in the business. NapaTrax is always customized and tailored for your business, whether you're a one-man shop or a large multi-bay or multi-location company. After all, it's your shop, so it's your choice. Visit us on the web at napatrax.com. That's napatracs.com. Is your recruitment process draining your valuable time and resources? What if there was a partner who could take your recruitment efforts off your plate? Look no further. Promotive is your ultimate solution for hassle-free staffing focused solely on the automotive industry. On the web at gopromotive.com. Promotive understands the challenges you face when searching for the perfect technician or service advisor for your shop. That's why we've developed a platform that takes the hassle out of recruiting. Michelle Tanzi from Euroclinic said, "I am a shop owner and recruiting new talent is so time-consuming. Promotive does the majority of the seeking and recruiting. They reach out to the candidates for you, and when they feel they are a good match for you and culture, they make the connection. They follow up throughout the interview process, and we make sure that the candidates are a good fit and the shop is a good fit for the candidates. I admire that they genuinely want both parties to win. They recruited and paired us with a solid B-Tech and Master Tech. Both left a dealership position and are still part of our team. We are very happy with the character and culture match, and both technicians have become valuable team members. Visit our website at gopromotive.com today and join the growing community of shop owners who have found their ideal team members with Promotive." last one on here is realistically how much you care about this, right? If you care about this because Hunt told you to care about this, then I probably wouldn't go and spend a ton of time because you might not even know why this matters or really kind of see the value in it. Now, you're thinking to yourself, Hunt, this is a godsend. I've been thinking about this for so long. I've wanted to fix this. I just didn't know how to do this. Well, then, hey, this is going to be exactly what you want. It might be a great use of your time. But I'm being serious about this, right? Parts reconciliation, any of this stuff that we talk about on here, do not go into more detail than you're actually going to use because you're working harder, not smarter, right? If you're never going to go down and analyze this, if you're going to be realistic with yourself and you say, Hunt, I barely look at this stuff anyways, then hey, maybe this is kind of the kick in the butt to start looking at this. But again, you got to walk before you run. Sometimes I see people kind of getting a little bit too lost in the minutia of this, and they lose the overall sight of what we're trying to do here, right? We are trying to make sure that our team is on the same page and we're making more money. And by having transparency between kind of our two systems here, we're hoping to achieve that clarity and to achieve that increased profitability. But at the end of the day, if we're just spending more time changing this stuff around and it's not driving real numbers to the bottom line, again, what are we working for? We're working for the sake of work, which is never really fun. So again, all of that comes down to how you do this, what methods you approach, how much time you spend on this, and the last one, how often you do this. Can you do this once? Yeah, you can do this once. And if you have a very similar shop of shape, size, quality of technicians, then you might not really need to adjust this that much. Again, you have kind of a revolving door, always new people in there, a bigger shop with a lot more volatility. You're going to probably have to do this a lot more frequently. So without further ado, let's get into how do we actually fix this stuff. So I'm going to kind of keep this short and sweet because these are not your numbers. The numbers I'm going to talk about, the examples I'm going to use are not yours. Think about how I'm calculating this stuff. Think about the methodology behind it and apply it to your numbers, right? That's probably the most common misconception when you guys shoot me an email is you take my examples too literally here. Now, I try to use very real life examples so that hopefully these numbers are kind of close to your numbers so that you can kind of do a little bit of a sanity check to make sure you're doing it right. So again, like I said, we're going to walk before we run, and we're going to go down through 3 different ways to do this, or kind of 3 different ideas behind this, ranking from the easiest stuff with this first one. You could pause this episode, do this over the next 5 minutes, and come back and finish it up. While the last one on here, yeah, you're probably going to spend a couple hours and be committing a little bit of a time for a little bit of a project here. Easiest one really doesn't use any payroll reports. It really doesn't use any reports whatsoever. And this is kind of rule of thumbs. So if I'm talking to someone, I don't know what their labor rates are. I don't know what their productivity is. This is kind of what I shoot for, right? Let's think about the way that this works, right? And I'm looking at this, I'm pausing because I wrote my notes opposite, and I think this will actually make more sense, right? So let's say that you have a hourly shop, right? All of your technicians are hourly. And let's say that you have a certain technician that is 50% productive. You know that the shop management software is going to estimate his cost at 50% of his real value, right? Because we know we pay him for every hour they're there. Shop management software thinks that we pay them for every hour that they flag. So he flags 20 hours at $30 an hour. It's going to think that he cost us, what, $600. We know we're going to pay him $1,200 because we're going to pay him the full 40 hours. So if you're looking at your shop and you say, Hunt, my guys are about 50% productive on here, then I'm probably going to multiply this times 2, maybe 2.25 to factor in some benefits, to factor in vacation time, to factor in inefficiencies, to factor in some stuff that I pay my guys for that we don't really charge out to customers, right? Again, we'll talk about this later. I'm always adding a little bit extra on top, right? If I think that my cost is twice as high, I'm adding 2.25 because we want to be conservative. I want my shop management software to be at 58% gross profit and find out that I'm making 60% gross profit, then the opposite. And I know that only sounds like 2%, guys, right? It's the idea behind it. You want to be conservative. You want to be surprised on the upside. You can always go back to your team and say, I set a goal. I set a target and you guys met that and it actually exceeded my expectations. You can't really go back to your team and beat them up and browbeat them when they hit your targets, when they hit your goals, and you didn't actually hit your profit target because you didn't calculate this correctly, right? So be conservative. So if you want to be super, super easy here and do rule of thumbs, hey, Hunt, my guys, I got 3 technicians. They're there for 40 hours a week, and we crank about 60, 70 hours out a week on this, right? Take every single cost in there and multiply times 2.25. Now, you're the opposite, right? Maybe you're a flat rate shop and your guys always crank out 40 hours a week, or there's no guarantees. So what you pay them is what your shop management software shows as far as hours. Same thing, maybe your salary, your hourly, but these guys crank out about 40 hours a week. The other end of this extreme of a rule of thumb is if your hours are always dead on, right? In that situation, then your cost should be very similar. And the only thing that we need to add on there is that conservative nature. So I'll probably add 25% on top. That guy that cost me $30 an hour is going to cost me $37 an hour, right? If I'm a 100% productive shop. Whereas if I have, a 50% productive shop on there, that guy that cost me $30 an hour is probably going to be put in there for around $67, right? Or multiply times 1.25 for 100% or 2.25 for 50% productive, right? And really what I see there is the swing of you guys, right? Top shops are probably going to be 100% or better. We really don't see many below 50% productive. You're below 50% production, yeah, there's probably a bigger reason. And again, you have more issues than the discrepancy here. You're thinking to yourself, Hunt, I'm 60%, 70%, 80%. Hopefully, you kind of get enough interest to do this next one on it. If not, right, if you know, hey, we multiply times 1.25 for 100% productive and 2.25 for 50%, do the math in the middle, right? It's, again, rules of thumbs, it's averages, and be conservative on this stuff. So do I recommend that one? No, right? But again, if you have nothing else on it, I would do that one just to kind of see what you're dealing with. Now, anyone that really wants to do this and really wants to track this going forward, this method here in the middle is what I recommend to everyone. When someone calls up and says, how do I fix this? I usually just tell them this way. It's so easy. It's so simple. And for 99% of you guys, this is going to be fine and probably more than even what you would be looking for. So how long is this going to take you? If you have all the reports and you're pretty decent with a calculator and stuff like that and computers, maybe half hour, right? If you really want to triple check this and maybe, do another period, an hour. Super, super simple. And again, it's going to pay for itself. So what do you need to do this? You need 2 reports, right? Whether you print these out, whether you pull these up on your internet browser, I don't care. But you're going to go back the last 90 days and do a logical sense, right? Do it where it falls onto a pay period, do it where it falls on the end of the month so you don't have variables here. But for the last 90 days, I want you to take your entire tech payroll cost, right? You want to look at this stuff as loaded, take your technician wages plus taxes, insurance, benefits, you name it, right? You want to just look at this as unloaded, then there, have your wages and you're done with it. Personally, I like to look at this stuff loaded. Some coaching companies look at it differently. I always tell people if you're in a coaching company, compare yourself to how your other shops are doing it. At the end of the day, it's potato, right? Personal preference, right? So I went down through, I added up all of my, total tech payroll costs for this period, and I came up with a number of $125,000. Great. That is our actual payroll cost. Now, let's see what my shop management software thinks that my payroll cost was for that period. So I run an end-of-day report, I run a tech payroll cost report, whatever that report is, over that same period. So that same 3-month, that same 90-day period, what did my shop management software think that I paid this team? And what I realized is that I actually paid them $125,000, but my shop management software only thinks that I paid them $100,000. What do we do now? We take our actual 125, we divide it by $100,000 of our estimated, and we come up with a ratio or a number of 1.25. Our actual costs are 1.25 times higher than our estimated. So what do? I take that 1.25, probably going to round that up to 1.3 or 1.4, and I'm going to take every single one of my technicians' costs in my shop management software and multiply times 1.3 or 1.4. Now, going forward, if your production, your rates and stuff like that stay similar, these numbers should be very, very, very close for the foreseeable future. As a general rule of thumb, when you first set this up, if you've never done it before, I would probably do it over a 3-month period, wait 3 months, do it again. If those numbers are pretty consistent on there, or you can kind of see the trends and how this stuff is related and you got a good handle on it, I usually do this yearly or anytime you get a new team in place. If you kind of do this after 3 months and see, man, this is kind of skewed again, how much your business swings, how much you have volatility in your production on there is going to kind of predicate how much you have to do this. Again, if you do this every month, you get value and you get, variables on this, then you probably should do it every single month. If you keep on kind of going swings on up and down on it, then you probably are going to have to go to this third option. The third option, and what we'll call our advanced, right? We have kind of bronze, silver, and gold here, even though I recommend silver, right? For the record, to take it to the advanced level, you're kind of doing the exact same thing here, right? You're taking your actual payroll costs and you divide it by your estimate, but you're doing it by technician and you're probably doing it on a much higher frequency. So I'll give you an example of one of my clients that does this, and I know it's probably the one that I think does this the best if you're really interested. So part of their end of month closeout for their team is to actually reconcile this technician payroll cost and they correct it for the following month. So what they do is, and this shop has a lot of technicians. So any of you guys that say, oh, I don't have time to do this, everyone does if you choose to spend your time. But they do this for 60 or 70 technicians at all their shops. But they go and they look at their technicians' payroll cost, their actual cost for the previous month, right? So let's say we're sitting here on March 1st. I'm going to pull the technician payroll cost by technician for each person for the last month, right? For February. So they're going to look at this and say, all right, we paid this person $12,000 last month. How much does our shop management software think we paid that individual person? Again, same idea. It's going to think that we paid them $10,000. We're going to need to divide, those two numbers. And we realize what we need to do is we need to increase that person's rate, just this person's, by 1.2. And then we're going to do it for another technician. And we might realize that we need to increase that person by 1.4. Sometimes if you look at this stuff, you might realize that you have a super productive technician and you need to reduce their cost by 0.6. I haven't seen that very much. I got one client that he's got a unicorn technician, cranks out around 3,500 hours a year. So yeah, it actually has to round his down. But if you have that problem, that's probably a whole different thing. And you probably aren't even using these reports because, profit's probably pretty darn good. But again, for most of you guys, kind of staying at the middle ground, doing this for the entire team as an overall average is going to be the easiest. But again, you want to go to the next level. You want to have this stuff down. Going to the advanced is just doing the same exact thing, but doing it on a monthly basis, bi-weekly at the most. Don't do this weekly. It's crazy. But again, going through every single technician instead of the entire team. Now, a couple things to consider before I get you guys out of here and you guys go do this for yourself is, keep in mind, flat rate shop that doesn't have guarantees on this, you're going to be pretty darn close. If you're salary or hourly shop, you're not going to be close at all, right? So kind of where you stand, a little bit of a barometer, that's what it is. What about a shop foreman, right? And I know someone's going to ask about this. If you have a shop foreman that produces hours on it, then you do the exact same thing. Now, if you have a shop foreman that is very, very, very not productive, even if you do kind of that middle of the road and do the team approach for everyone, you might need to do something different for that shop foreman, right? So let's say your shop foreman makes $30 an hour, but they only crank out around 10 hours a week generally. That shop foreman's going to be in there for $120 an hour, right? Because for every 1 hour he bills out, you're paying him out for. Again, if you're going with a team approach on it, you just include any, other payroll costs that you want to factor in. Hey, I got 3 technicians. I got a maintenance or, just a cleanup kid and a shop foreman. I'm going to take the payroll cost of all 5 of them and I'm going to allocate it to the 3 technicians. Because again, the 3 technicians' job is to cover all of that labor cost. Lastly on here, I cannot stress this enough. Always, always, always round up. meaning, hey, if you think it's going to cost you $100, we're going to factor in $105, right? If you think it might be $300, we're going to factor in $350. Always be conservative. No one is ever disappointed when they make more profit than they think. You guys are always disappointed the opposite, right? So keep that in mind. I hope this was helpful. Please share with friends. If you have any questions, shoot me an email at podcast@parmelis.com. Again, you want to talk to us about accounting and tax services for your repair shop, shoot me a text at 301-307-5413. Just want to thanks again for listening to the Aftermarket Radio Network. Don't forget to check out the rest of the shows on the aftermarketradionetwork.com and on your favorite podcast listening app. Whether it's Craig and Speak Up, Matt diagnosing the aftermarket and everything else, Chris Cotton and his weekly blitz, or the Walkers talking about everything shop marketing, please check it out. I know that there'll be something that you will enjoy. So just want to say thanks again for joining me on Business by the Numbers. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you all next week.
You've been listening to Business by the Numbers with Hunt Demarest on the Aftermarket Radio Network. Follow Hunt on your favorite podcast listening app. Let him know what you'd like him to cover. His email is in the show notes. Hunt is all for advancing the aftermarket.